can start to get started, and if any more people join, they can trickle in. I'll ask everyone to mute their microphones, please. We can get started, and I will stop showing your faces to yourself. There. All right. So I am Rachel Gartland. I'm one of the PGY4s at Penn, and this is obviously a session about women in medicine. I think, this has been really one of the biggest parts of my residency is working with women in medicine, helping to develop mentorship programs, create sort of she-emergency events, and really bring our group to the forefront of our department and as part of the national sort of PennEM movement. We will hear from several people today. Each person will chat a little bit about a certain topic regarding women in medicine, and we'll have opportunities to ask questions after each person has talked, and again at the end. You can also feel free to share or ask anything in the chat, and Mira, if you're able to just keep an eye on that and let me know if there's anything coming up in the chat, just feel free to interrupt. All right, so as I said, I'm one of the fourth-year residents here. That's me. And I'm the resident leader for our group called She-Emergency, which is specifically what I'll be talking about today. Our group is made up of women in our department, physicians, residents, faculty, and it's all the women. We have events throughout the year that are social events, discussions, book clubs, aimed at developing mentorship sort of as a group and individually between junior faculty, senior faculty, residents and faculty, junior residents, senior residents. I think when I came to residency, I didn't think about having this group as an option and as a resource, but during my intern year orientation, went to a speed dating event and became involved. It's just a lot of fun. So what we do in She-Emergency is, in addition to events, we also attend the PennEM Fixed Conference, which for the past 3 years has been held in New York City. This year it's virtual, but it was going to be in Chicago. We've sent a bunch of residents, a bunch of faculty to this, and it's been a ton of fun. I don't know if you can see my mouse, but this is Amy Zaiden. She was one of the fourth-year residents here when I was an intern, and helped with several other of my mentors to create our She-Emergency event at Penn. Amy went on to sort of help develop the PennEM national movement and coordinate the Fixed Conference, which is awesome. So Penn has really been super involved in that. This was last year. There's myself and two other of my co-residents. This is Lauren Conlon, who is our program director. Wilma is one of our ultrasound faculty, and Daphne is one of our faculty here who was also a resident here. One of the awesome things about the Fixed Conference last year was that Daphne was one of the speakers. So we got to show up to support her, see her, talk to thousands of people, share her story, and also had fun, had a beautiful sunset, and really network with a lot of women from across the EM world. Some other things that we do more recently, we've had discussion groups. This was from a virtual discussion talking about imposter syndrome. since it's virtual, we actually coordinated and had this event with the OHSU She-Emergency Group in Oregon. Jen Love is up here. She was also one of the co-creators with UTSA of our She-Emergency Group. This was a lot of fun, especially because Wilma's baby showed up. It was super cute. We have had some opportunities to publish about our group as well. I wrote this down here in the corner that was more reflections of what She-Emergency has meant to me. You guys are welcome to look it up and read it. And it was sort of a response to this article published by the creators of our group, including Angela Mills, who used to be at Penn but is now at Columbia. I think in general, our group has been incredibly supportive. It's really given me an opportunity to have dedicated mentors talk about some of the specific challenges, especially as a resident, that women face, and get involved in more of a national movement, talk with other people, network. It's been awesome. We're gonna hear from a couple other people who will talk about this as well, but I'd like to open it up if anyone has any specific questions about She-Emergency now or at the end. Feel free to ask. You can either unmute and ask yourself or type it in the chat box. Next up, we are going to hear from Mira Mamtani. Mira is one of our assistant program directors. She, as well as everyone who's been speaking today, is one of my mentors. Mira was a resident at Penn and joined faculty here before becoming the assistant program director. She is passionate about education, but also about this research that she's doing that looks at gender bias and feedback. Mira, it's great to have you here.
Thanks, Rachel. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay, wonderful. So thank you all for joining us today. We're so excited that you are here and with us to hear a little bit about our program. As Rachel mentioned, I've been the Associate Residency Program Director at Penn since 2013, and I've been thinking about and learning about the impact of gender on training, advancement, and promotion during that time. It's something I'm really passionate about. And my experiences as an associate program director and in giving feedback to my trainees is the impetus for the study that I'm going to share today. The name of the study is called The Gender Gap. It's a multi-site mixed method study exploring gender differences and feedback to EM trainees. Before I get into the study, I just want to note that the primary mentor on the study is Stephanie Abule, who is also on this webinar and you'll hear from shortly. But honestly, as Rachel alluded to earlier, all of the women on this webinar have either directly mentored me or I've had the opportunity to mentor them. And I think that really highlights the strong She-Emergency culture at Penn Medicine. So going back to the study, just a little bit of background. So is that, can you guys see or no? Yeah. Okay, perfect. Okay, so this is an emergency medicine milestone. And for the medical students on the call, a level 1 or level 2 is probably where you're at. And as you progress throughout training, you'll achieve a level 3, 4, or 5. Well, a recent study found that male residents achieved competency ratings faster than female residents across all of the 23 emergency medicine milestones, and that this amounted to 3 additional months of training that the female resident would have to complete to catch up to their male colleagues. 3 months, and the only difference was their gender. And so, you know, you ask yourself, why does this matter? And it matters for a variety of reasons. We know that it negatively impacts our learners. It increases the rate of burnout. It impacts their overall wellness. It can impact their career selection, and in fact, only 37% of EM residents are female. It impacts their advancement and promotion, and only 17% of EM full professors are female. And lastly, and I think importantly as a medical educator, we know that improving feedback improves the learning environment for men and women. So if we could better understand this gender assessment gap, we could inform interventions that would help improve the learning environment for all learners. And then I thought to myself, well, how would I make that happen? And I realized that I needed to get some data. And so we applied for and received an Emergency Medicine Foundation grant that sought to assess gender differences in written clinical evaluation feedback to EM residents. And so Penn is the primary site. We convinced University of Washington, Oregon Health and Sciences University, University of Iowa, and University of Alabama to share 3 years of written clinical evaluation feedback comments from their faculty to their trainees so that we could identify differences in the type of feedback that our faculty provide to our trainees by gender. Just a quick note about the methods. So we employed the services of Penn's Mixed Method Research Lab. It's a resource we have at Penn where we have trained qualitative experts who can code large data sets. And the reason I bring this up is also just to point out that we're lucky at Penn that we have all these resources that can help support ongoing projects and things that you're interested in. All of the data was blinded to gender prior to coding. We used an iterative approach so as not to miss any nuances in the data set, an axial coding approach to identify core themes, and then the data set was double coded to help validate the results. So an independent coder reviewed the data set to make sure that we've achieved validation in the results. And so our data is inclusive of from July 1st, 2015 to June 30th, 2018, including the 5 sites that I mentioned earlier, with a total of 283 residents, of which 60% are male and 40% are female, 281 faculty, of which 65% are male and 35% are female, and totaling over 15,000 free text comments. And these comments ranged from, one-word items to like entire paragraphs on the faculty's feedback of their trainees. We constructed these comments into the following major themes. And so the codes are breaking down into clinical practice codes like how adaptable are you, your differential diagnosis, management style, which includes things like your patient and provider communication, personality trait codes like how receptive you are to feedback, as well as nodes, which denoted whether the evaluator thought the trainee was at level, above level, or below level. And I'm excited to share our preliminary results. So we found that more male residents received comments related to their management style in the domains of team orientation and patient communication. You can see the breakdown there. More female residents received comments related to assertiveness and confidence compared to male residents. So you can see the breakdown here. And lastly, more male faculty gave comments that were non-specific, like keep up the hard work or good job compared to female faculty. And so 63% of male faculty versus 42% of female faculty gave feedback comments that were non-specific. And the reason I think this is relevant is when you think back to effective feedback that you've received, it's often specific. And studies have shown that non-specific feedback is generally viewed as unhelpful. So I think this one's particularly interesting in thinking about how to inform interventions to help address this bias. So our next steps, we're going to be exploring gender concordance and discordance. So, specifically, is this non-specific feedback provided by male faculty geared more towards male or female emergency medicine residents? We want to plan some faculty development sessions on delivering less biased feedback and some resident educational sessions on the art of receiving effective feedback. So that's my study in a nutshell. Let me know if you have any questions, either about this study, about ways in which women in emergency medicine at Penn are supported, or about training in Penn in general. That's it. Thank you, guys. I'm going to stop sharing so that if you have any questions, I can see the screen.
Thank you, Mira. Again, if you guys have questions, just interrupt or ask in the chat box. We also have a couple of our amazing residents here, like Chinazy, I see Veronica and Sam. So, you know, hopefully with some of Mira's research, especially being at the forefront at Penn, we're really creating better feedback learning and more inclusive language in our feedback for our residents as well. Next up will be Stephanie Abul. Stephanie Abul is going to talk about some of her initiatives at Penn. Steph has been faculty here for a while. She has served as medical director, as vice chair, and most pertinently here is the executive director of the Focus on Health and Leadership for Women group, which she'll talk about. She's also one of the directors of a Penn Pathways leadership program for assistant professors. She has been an incredible mentor for everyone here, I think, is always open to talk about career development, talk about how your day was, how your shift went, and we're lucky to have her here.
Wow, thank you. And mostly I'm here to tell you how great this program is. And I hope I'm going to get to do that in the next 10 minutes or so. So just again, yeah, I'm a senior faculty member and I've been at Penn my whole career. So, you know, that's the viewpoint that I'm coming from. So, you know, when you're looking at residency programs, and first of all, congratulations for having gotten to where you are in this incredibly unprecedented, uncertain past year that is still with us. I actually cannot imagine what it's been like for you to try to finish up medical school amidst all this, but bravo to you. And, you know, many of us are in awe of you being able to get to this stage amidst all of this. So, you know, when you're looking at residencies, of course, you're looking for great clinical teaching and a place that's going to give you a wide variety of patients and acute care and, you know, more like observational care or walk-in kind of care. You're looking for great teaching, for great conferences, bedside teaching, research opportunities, opportunities to be involved in quality administration, the whole gamut. But maybe most importantly, you're looking for role models. And I think if you're on this call, you're looking for women role models. And I can promise you that Penn has just amazing women medical students, amazing women residents, fellows, junior faculty, mid-career faculty, senior faculty. Yes, I'm biased, but I can tell you that you will have an amazingly diverse group of women to work with and have those women be your mentors, friends, teachers, and how can I sell you on that? And I'm gonna just give you a couple stats because I keep track of this kind of stuff. But Penn has had a greater percentage of women faculty for 3 decades compared to your average standard Department of Emergency Medicine. And right now we have 42% women faculty. And if you look at standard data about your average, you know, the AAMC keeps this kind of data, it's 30% at most places, and we're 42%. And there have been times in the past when we've even been over 50%. I mean, I know this is just unbelievable, but it's true because it's been a department that has had a history for decades of supporting and having outstanding women, strong women, and women in different career paths. Some are interested in research, some are administrative leaders, some are interested in community projects. I mean, the whole gamut. So the numbers will tell you that. And another stat, 25% of our women are full professors. You will see that nowhere else. In fact, the average stats for that is it's 7% of women. That tells you that, you know, a lot of our women faculty trained here or were here as fellows, stayed here, had families here, you know, got involved in all kinds of efforts, both in work and outside work, and stayed on to become full professors. Again, I think the stats are remarkable, but they speak to the fact that it's a place where women come and feel supported and have a group and a collegial camaraderie that's embedded in this department and has really been a history of the department. What else? We have amazing women leaders. I don't think there's another department, and Jill, you can tell me if you know, that has produced 3 women chairs like in the last few years. I mean, Jill was chair of our department, Angela Mills is chair at Columbia, and Betsy Dadner is chair at Einstein here in Philly. That is amazing. And so, I mean, again, you know, we have women doing all kinds of exciting things, and Jean Marie's on, and Daphne's on, and Lauren is our, you know, our residency director, and, you know, we have women at vice chair, at the chair level, at medical director, in the education program, in the quality program. And so as you're looking out at different programs, it's really important to see that there's women at all stages, not just junior women, but women who've stayed and become leaders too. I think that speaks volumes about a program. You know, I could talk a lot about how I think that happened here. I think that there's a lot to critical mass. I think that you bring talented, energetic women together, they support each other, and next thing you know, people who interview here, they pick up on that vibe. So I think that a lot of it is the history, a lot of it is the fact that we've had this strong women component to our department literally for decades. The other thing is that, you know, obviously the Department of Emergency Medicine is embedded at PennEM, at the school and the university. And the university and Penn Medicine is also, listen, it's not perfect. We have a long way to go. We should have more women as chairs and in division chief positions. But when you compare us to other places, we are definitely out there in front, frankly. And one of the ways that I can convince you of that is that we have a program at the medical school called Focus on Health and Leadership for Women, which I'm the executive director of. And it is a dean-funded program, and you don't see that very often. There's a handful of schools in this country that provide a budget for a women in medicine program. A lot of the programs that you'll hear about are volunteers, women who can put together an hour here or there, you know, to run some small program, but we have a budget, and that just kind of speaks to the fact that, again, while not perfect, and while we still have, you know, issues that we want to work together on, there's a lot of support. So just a minute about Focus on Health and Leadership for Women. Again, this is a School of Medicine program where basically our mission is to do everything we can to advance women here, to recruit women, to keep them here, and to advance them to leadership. And also to do research on women's careers and things about climate and leadership and the kind of work that Mira just told you about. So we actually want to study this, and we want to be part of finding solutions. And the Focus program, I mean, again, I could list you all, you know, 13 of our initiatives, but I think from your point of view, the most important thing is that we run a lot of leadership training. And our leadership training can be a single lunchtime session on, let's say, negotiation, or managing up, or running a team, or imposter syndrome, or work-life balance, how to set boundaries. you know, how to brand yourself and advocate and promote yourself, to cohort programs where we put women together and we work over months on a certain topic, like let's say time management. And Focus has a section of women residents and fellows, of which some emergency medicine residents have been a part of that. And I hope will continue to be a part of that, because they're running programs that are specific for fellow and residents who have, obviously you have very particular concerns then, like run things like how to decide if you want to go into academics or community practice. How do you manage personal finances at a young age, thinking about the future? How do you negotiate for your first job? How, you know, all that kind of stuff. So I don't want to drone on too much longer, but I think that not only is our department a really unique place in our history and our present state of I think, just amazing women who support each other and have this group camaraderie that's powerful. But you're also going to be in a medical school, and this is going to matter to you because you're going to rotate on other services, and you're going to want to know that this isn't just in the emergency department. This is across the medical school, and they've put their money where their mouth is, which frankly is unusual. So again, I don't want to gloss over the fact that, you know, we still have work to do. We still have a lot of work to do. And we need more, you know, diverse faculty. And we need to work more on salaries, and we need to get even more women in chair positions. But it's darn good. So I'll leave it there, and I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you so much, Steph. You are amazing. Dr. Abul, we are very lucky to have you. Next, we will hear from Jill Barron. And Dr. Barron has so many titles. She has been faculty at Penn, but is also faculty at CHOP and works in the pediatric emergency department next door. She's president of ABEM, the American Board of EM, so casual. And she recently started a new position as provost of a University of the Sciences, which is a school in Philly. She's super busy, but always makes time to sit down, talk about whatever you have questions about, how to promote yourself. And she's going to talk to us today about mentorship and sort of advocating for yourself, developing your own career as a woman in medicine.
Thank you, Rachel, for that lovely introduction. And I want to say hi to everybody. The turnout is really fantastic. It's great that you took your time to show your interest and hopefully be reaffirmed. I really do want to echo a lot of what Stephanie said. The programming through Focus is really spectacular. And I benefited from that throughout my almost 24-year career at Penn. I recently made a big career move, became, as Rachel said, the provost and vice president of academic affairs at a health sciences university that's right next door to Penn in Philadelphia. Fortunately, I left the ABEM position in July, so I was president of ABEM last year and now the immediate past president. That would have been a big pill to swallow altogether in the same year. But anyway, I did want to cover the topic of mentorship, and I think it fits very well on the heels of a lot of what Stephanie talked about. And I want to focus on a couple of different points about mentorship that I think you could spend hours and hours and hours talking about each one of them. But I think to kind of encapsulate it for what might be important for everybody to hear on this call is that it's never too early to take advantage of mentorship. Mentorship means so many different things to different people, and the duration and the intensity of a mentoring relationship really can change and can be very different from person to person. I also have had mentoring relationships with a number of the women on this call, and have been, mentored by so many different types of people. I think one of the most important things is to approach it as kind of like a mosaic relationship, where you have different people that can contribute different elements to what you need in your entire career planning. There are just different needs that you have at different times. So perhaps when you're a trainee, you need mentorship really around understanding the landscape of the organization that you find yourself in. What are some of the landmines? How do you navigate certain faculty personalities? How do you take charge of planning, for example, your electives, and what is your year going to look like in terms of maybe research, or you're interested in a subspecialty and you need to get some advice about applying for a fellowship. So there's that kind of mentoring where it's a lot of advice giving, a lot of career destination planning for people that are still in the training period. And then as you move through your career, maybe in your first job, you need some additional clinical mentoring. That can be one of the hardest transitions that people make when they come out of that cocoon and that umbrella of safety that you have as a trainee, and then suddenly you're on your own in a job and you're in a different place. Or even if you stay in the same place, maybe Daphne can comment, or Mira, all of you made that transition from being residents with us in the program to becoming faculty, and that can be associated with some stress, and you really do need a person to go to and have some advice. And then later on, there may be career transitions. You may be thinking about, taking a sidestep or taking time off or balancing things to do with work and family. And so again, it's great to have multiple perspectives and not just rely on one person. Many people do have a kind of constant go-to mentor that really kind of they save as a very long-term relationship with that person. And I've had a couple of those people in my career, and I always know that I can call them. I may go for long stretches without talking to them, but I can always go back to them because there's a trust and a knowledge of kind of where I'm coming from, what are my core values, how do I apply myself at work, and I can always discuss a situation even if we go for many months or even years without really talking to each other. So I think never too early to start, always great to have multiple perspectives. And then I think the other part that I would encourage all of you to think about is that mentoring relationships and career development is a very purposeful and strategic activity. I think that when things happen to you, sometimes you'll kind of examine them and realize that, well, gosh, maybe that wasn't really an accident. Maybe I did things or I made choices that kind of landed me in this position. And if you're in a situation where maybe you want to make that change, you can be very purposeful and strategic and plan to do that through a variety of activities, whether it's professional development or, again, getting advice, or really just having those role models that can show you can do it. That's really, really important. I have found it very useful, and someone taught this to me, to have a kind of a 5-year plan that really works by purposeful thought process at the end of every year, looking at my goals. And really at the 3-year mark, I'm really seeing whether I need to change that 5-year kind of a goalpost that I set up. And I have a time of reflection where I look back and I see, well, what have I engaged in? What have I done that was maybe something that I gravitated toward because it made me excited and I was passionate about it, and I'm doing all those things. Maybe I'm talking about doing something else, but my actions speak differently. So I think having that purposeful reflection and career planning, and then going out and finding the people that can best help you see that reflection and go where you want to go, is a really, really helpful part of career planning, no matter what you choose. It can be, again, a position in a community hospital. It can be, going off and doing something in global medicine, being a subspecialist, taking an academic job, whatever it is. Really, it's all about thinking what is really reflective of you and what you're enjoying the most, and where can you find your passion that you can apply your energy. So I'm going to stop there and be purposefully a little bit brief so we can give everybody a chance to talk, and I'm more than happy to answer questions at the end.
Thank you, Dr. Barron. We have a couple questions that we can just briefly address in the chat. I know, Tori, you were asking about sort of with all of these programs, you were wondering what the response from the males in the program are, what their attitude is when projects like this come up in discussion or when support is requested. And, you know, speaking from, I guess, my own experience with Shemergency, our events are mostly attended by women. We are open to males joining, especially for discussion groups, you know, anything that they want. But, you know, I think overall, the men in the department really respect that this is a deficit in medicine in general, and that these programs are really important to advancing equity. And I think like the culture here is just very inclusive, never negative. I don't know if you guys have any other thoughts. Next up, we will hear from Dr. Jean Marie Perrone, who is just a badass at like life and emergency medicine and toxicology. Dr. Perrone has done a ton of work with addiction medicine within the realm of toxicology, and has really spearheaded a program at Penn to help get everyone X-waiver for Suboxone, help create warm handoffs for our patients, but specifically has been one of my mentors at Penn. We have big SIB, little SIB families, and Jean Marie is our faculty family member for my little family, and is always there to cheer me on.
Thanks. Hi, everybody. Welcome to Penn. And it's really interesting to be able to have this opportunity. We used to have like happy hours and we had applicants, and this is the next best thing. So it's fun to see everyone's face and kind of share a little bit more in a structured way than the happy hours were. But at least it's nice to see each other. I can also reflect that I've been mentored and mentor a lot of people in these in this session. So I appreciate all the comments from Jill and Stephanie, and you know, I definitely feel like Penn has supported my growth from, you know, I also came as a post-fellowship trained person with my first faculty job and have stayed here, but hopefully evolved a little bit in all of those processes. I just want to talk a little bit about what we call our ED family. I also have, because of my length of time here, I have many mentees across the spectrum, many people who went into toxicology specifically, who I've continued to mentor in their subsequent careers. But more recently, we had this program where we had these ED families, and one of the families was, I guess, women, one woman in each class, so one person from each of the 4 years of residency, plus a more junior faculty and a more senior faculty member. And so this started a few years ago, and one of the, I guess it was like one of the mentees, two of the mentees ended up doing toxicology, and they're still kind of in my circle really frequently, and they've probably graduated 3 years ago. And then Rachel joined as an intern, and so she's another person who we circle around. But building these relationships, either based on content overlap or just fun overlap or personality, these, you know, in my reflections on my whole career, mentoring to me has really become the most valuable thing that that I think you really do when you look back. And it's one of the things that I think I miss the most about not traveling and not going to conferences right now, is that, you know, you really don't have those in-person connections to the people we've trained that we get to see, you know, a couple times a year at meetings. And so it's nice to see everyone with their interest level, and it's really, to me, it's been incredibly valuable to have people sort of circle back at important junctions of their life wanting more advice. And then, you know, for me, having the network of, you know, really beyond some of my colleagues on this call, there's probably another 4 or 5 people women in the department who, you know, have continued to be people who we all started together, and we still look to each other for advice now at different levels of both career transitions, family transitions. You know, many of us raised our children together and had a lot of kind of co-mentoring around those life changes that we can then translate to, you know, our younger women residents or faculty who have started those life stages. So it's really, it is more like family. 4 years is a solid amount of time, equal to the amount of time you spent in lots of your other 4-year phases in college and med school. And I'm sure when you think back on all your best friends from all those eras, you will have new best friends in residency. And I'm sure Rachel can attest to that. You might already think you've formed all the big important relationships in your life, but these are the new relationships that will actually last for your whole life, because you'll have these opportunities to continue because of, you know, being in the same field and seeing people on a somewhat regular basis, practicing the same type of medicine and kind of collaborating across institutions. So it's kind of fun. Be ready to make new opportunities, new experiences, and you know, come to Philadelphia or come to Penn or wherever you end up with an open mind, because it's another really important stage, and you're going to grow in a whole lot of new ways. And coming up with a collegial atmosphere that you feel comfortable in is going to be really important. And I think we have a lot of those super awesome support networks here, ready to welcome new people. So thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Perrone. I saw we're going to hear from Dr. Daphne Owen, but first Mimi has a very important question. Mimi asked about PennEM's initiatives targeting women of color, first-generation women, women from low socioeconomic backgrounds, and I love the term women dreamers in residency and sort of in greater PennEM. And I think that's really important, Mimi. I think you know, one of the issues that women groups should address more is not just disparities among men and women, but specifically among Black women who are completely underrepresented in medicine, to not even touch on sort of everything, all of the other structural racism and inequities there. You know, we have a lot of work to do still, but I think our program in particular is stepping up to the challenge. I don't know if any of you guys were able to join our program, I think last week, webinar maybe, that was specifically about diversity and inclusion. We have, over the last year and now this year, really had a targeted program in terms of resident recruitment to recruit a diverse class of residents, meaning men and women, all sorts of backgrounds, traditional or non-traditional routes of medicine, people of color, people from sort of all walks of life. And while I know that's not specifically targeting women, I think it is targeting a diverse group that will make our program better providers, more represent the patient population, and be able to connect with the patient population that we have, and sort of help, I think, as we sort of build up a more diverse department, encourage more mentorship, more sort of advocacy amongst our department. Don't know if anyone else has anything else to add for that. We also are lucky to have Gina South, who was unable to join us tonight, who is our new chair of diversity and inclusion. And you guys can look her up because I know we're going to run short on time, but she's amazing. And I'm really excited to see sort of what initiatives she brings over the next couple of years.
I'll just add in case any of you weren't here for last week's session, Dr. Iris Reyes in our department has been really, really influential in recruiting and retaining minority residents and faculty members, and helps run an organization called Alliance of Minority Physicians at Penn, which is really important in providing mentorship to people from diverse backgrounds, both ethnic, racially, and otherwise. So that's really important. And also the medical school has an Office of Diversity and Inclusion, which has a lot of really great programs as well. And if you guys are interested, you should totally look it up, because there's a lot of things that they're doing. So I think that we have work to do, but we've made some pretty clear, what's the word I'm looking for?
Commitment.
Yeah, in our department, to continue to recruit and retain more minority faculty and residents, and especially women minority faculty and residents.
100%. That was Dr. Daphne Owen also. And I think one of the other important things to point out, not in terms of sort of committing within our department to advancing women in medicine and women of color in medicine, but part of Daphne has been, was a resident here. She was one of the fourth-year residents when I was an intern and helped me survive intern year. She stayed on as faculty and has won a ton of awards. Like, I tried to look it up and there's just a lot. She, like I said, spoke at the FIX conference last year. And one of her amazing accomplishments is as a medical student, I believe, getting involved in a clinic in the city called Puentes de Salud, which I think, has really grown over the years and provides not just primary care, but specialized care, most specifically to Latina and Latino Philadelphians, but also people who come from underserved areas, who have are uninsured or underinsured. And it's really sort of spread to become a community support program as well. So we're really lucky to have Daphne here.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Well, I'm just going to say real quick. So I was a resident here at Penn, and I was actually a med student here as well. And to me, I think especially as a woman, I'm going to just throw out to you a couple things that are really important about what we have going on at PennEM. The first is that as someone who struggled a lot with confidence in the emergency department, it was very, very, very important to me that I had people, women specifically, who were my attendings, who I could work with on that. So Jean Marie, Jill, Stephanie, Mira, Lauren, all of those people at different times, have in one way or another pulled me aside and said, hey, I can tell you're doubting yourself. You need to stop that. You need to cut it out. You're doing great. You're supposed to be here. Or on a shift, we're like, hey, you're doing a great job. Or just really kind of gave me the encouragement that I needed. And I think that having women attendings really made me feel more comfortable to be able to be honest about the fact that when I was struggling, or when I was feeling unsure of myself or not having the confidence, that I felt like I could sort of be more free to speak to them about that and get their help and guidance on it. And so I think that's super important. The other thing I'll say about residency at Penn, which is really important, I think sort of both for men and women and everyone, but specifically for me and many of us as women, is if you want to sort of develop leadership or some kind of research or specialty, we have two things that make it very possible to really develop yourself as an expert in some way at Penn. And that is, number one, we have tons of resources because it's a huge university. If you want to go to a conference, you want to do research, someone's going to be able to connect you to funding, to supporters, whatever it is that you need. And then secondly, we have a lot of really great elective time in third and fourth year that you can use to do something really awesome. So as a third-year resident, I became the assistant medical director of this nonprofit clinic, in residency. And I was able to do that and develop programs and do all of this stuff because I had support and resources from the department and the university. And also because I had this elective time that I could like essentially have, you know, develop this kind of like extra job and area of expertise. So I think especially as a woman, that was really important to be able to now kind of be done with residency and already have something that I can say, hey, like, look, here's this special thing that I do, or here's my area of interest. And then I'm going to stop talking, and I just want to give a shout out to some of our interns who are on here. Chinezi, I see you. So Chinezi, do you have anything to add about what it's like to be a woman? And Veronica, there you are too, I see you. Do either of you want to just like give a little comment?
Honestly, I feel like you just spoke to my soul right now. That's exactly how I felt with I was very nervous starting, and I'm still trying to get my feet wet as I go from one rotation to another, and having a lot of women who see me and already developing mentorship relationships. It's been so great, and honestly, such a great learning environment, and I feel I can actually be my best here.
You're amazing, Lindsay.
Yes, totally agree with what Chinezi said. I feel like we walked onto the unit with so much support and real constructive feedback, so that you can see, you know, even though we just started residency a few months ago, like where we were week 1 to where, you know, we are now clinically is incredible. And it's funny, like, that all the women that work in the department have gone through what we went through with imposter syndrome. So as Dr. Owen said, like, you guys, you can tell, like, we're wearing masks, but you can still tell when we're having our moments of doubt, and then pulling us to the side and just reaffirming our place in this organization. And so I'm so blessed to have matched here. And honestly, like, I love my life right now.
Yeah, the interns are crushing it, you guys. It's amazing. So great job. So yeah, definitely love being at PennEM, and glad to talk to you guys.
Thank you all so much. Veronica and Chinezi, you guys are amazing. Like I said, before you guys all joined, we were already talking about how awesome our interns are, like killing it already. So everyone, thank you so much for joining us. Last up, we're just gonna have some closing remarks from Dr. Kaitlina Stillman, who is one of my best friends, but also one of our chief residents this year. Oh, thanks. And has really been an advocate for not just women in our department, but in developing our new social medicine curriculum that we're implementing this year, and advocating for education and equity within our residency.
Thank you, Rachel, for that wonderful introduction. So firstly, welcome, guys. So excited that you're all here. I think a lot of what I'm going to say next is going to be a little bit redundant, but I do think it's worth echoing a lot of what's said so far, just from the resident perspective. And you know, I know that you all probably know at this point that, you know, being trainees, women trainees in medicine, that there are still barriers in place that make it difficult for us and make us need to jump through hoops to get into leadership positions in medicine. We've come a long way, but as Dr. Buell said, we have a lot of work to do. And so I think as I was applying to residency, I really underestimated the value of being inducted, so to speak, into a pre-made family of women, not just women doctors, but phenomenal role models and mentors that have tons of accolades and who are just genuinely so excited to welcome you to their family. And I, from day one, felt so supported. And I think She Emergency was really fundamental in not only my growth clinically as a doctor, but also professionally and just generally as a person too. And so it's really something that's unique to our program, something that I'm really proud of, and something that I'm very thankful that phenomenal resident leaders like Rachel are continuing forward. And if you guys have any specific questions about the resident perspective, being a women resident at Penn, I'm also happy to answer any questions offline. And good luck with your application cycle. And I guess if we have any more time, we can open it up for more questions.
Thanks, Caitlina. You guys feel free if you have to head out. That's fine. I know it's like evening time and a normal time to have a life, and it's really important to like also see your family and eat food and sleep. If anyone has any questions or just wants to chat further, I'm here for a few more minutes. Thank you guys all for coming.